Malcolm-Jamal Warner, best known and beloved for his groundbreaking role.
On July 20th, 2025, all of Hollywood was stunned by the news that Malcolm-Jamal Warner, the eldest son Theo Huxtable from The Cosby Show, had suddenly passed away in a drowning accident in Costa Rica. But the shock didn't end there. Right after the funeral, a private archive that Warner had kept for many years was opened. And what was inside left everyone frozen mementos from his glory days, never-before-seen family photos, handwritten letters filled with heartfelt words, along with clues to a life entirely different from the one under the spotlight. Video, because the most shocking part is waiting for you at the very end. From a Jersey City boy to America's eldest son, the archive that has just been opened does not only contain warm family photographs and stage memorabilia, but also preserves the very first pieces of an extraordinary journey, the childhood and origins of Malcolm-Jamal Warner. To understand why he became a television icon in America, we need to return to the late summer of 1970, when everything began. Malcolm-Jamal Warner was born on August 18, 1970, in Jersey City, New Jersey, during a period when the United States was undergoing major social and cultural upheavals. His name was a meaningful combination. Malcolm after Malcolm X, the famous civil rights activist, and Jamal inspired by Ahmad Jamal, the legendary jazz pianist. From the moment he was born, his mother Pamela Warner placed her hopes in him to be strong, yet sensitive, committed, yet artistic. Malcolm grew up in a modest household. His parents divorced early, and he lived with his mother, who was both his support system and his first manager. Pamela noticed her son's passion for the arts when he was only 7 or 8 years old. Malcolm often stood in front of a mirror imitating characters from TV, memorizing every line. She enrolled him in acting classes, and later in the Professional Children's School in New York, a training ground for talented young performers. In 1979, at just 9 years old, Malcolm began landing small roles in TV commercials and children's theater. He quickly learned how to face the camera, control his gaze, and use his voice, skills that would later become the weapons that brought him his career-defining role. The turning point came in 1984. At the time, NBC was casting for a new family sitcom called The Cosby Show. Over 200 teenagers from across the country auditioned for the role of Theodore Theo Huxtable, the smart, kind-hearted, yet sometimes awkward eldest son. Malcolm, then only 13, beat them all. The role not only changed his life, but also became an iconic image of African-American youth on U.S. television. In its very first season, The Cosby Show became a phenomenon, topping the Nielsen ratings for years. Malcolm-Jamal Warner was quickly nicknamed America's eldest son. In 1986, at just 16 years old, he earned an Emmy nomination for Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series, a rare honor for a teenage actor. Early success also meant heavy pressure. Malcolm still had to finish his high school education while filming 39 weeks a year. The packed schedule didn't stop him from nurturing his love of music. He learned to play the bass and was drawn to jazz, funk, and R&B. Friends recall that whenever he wasn't on set, Malcolm would visit New York jazz clubs to quietly learn from veteran musicians. His teenage years were a blend of ordinary life in New Jersey and the bright lights of Hollywood. His mother always reminded him, "Don't let the spotlight blind you. Remember who you are and where you come from." This upbringing helped Malcolm avoid the pitfalls that caused many child stars of his era to stumble. In the newly opened archive, people found many keepsakes tied to those early years. A photo of young Malcolm holding a bass guitar almost as big as himself. A ticket stub from an Ahmad Jamal concert in 1982 his mother took him to. And a note Pamela hurriedly wrote before that life-changing audition in 1984. "No matter the outcome, you've already made me proud." From a boy born in Jersey City in 1970, Malcolm-Jamal Warner stepped into the Huxtable family's living room and became part of millions of childhoods. Those early years were not only the foundation for his 4-decade career, but also explain why, when the archive was finally opened, his past stirred such deep emotions around the world. The career journey of a multi-talented artist. From the turning point in 1984, Malcolm-Jamal Warner entered a stage of his career that few teenage actors could ever experience. Loved by millions while standing at the center of one of the most successful sitcoms in U.S. television history. The Cosby Show aired continuously from September 20, 1984 to April 30, 1992, spanning 8 seasons with 197 episodes almost always topping the Nielsen ratings. Warner, who began as a 13-year-old boy, grew up before the public's eyes. From the colorful sweaters of the early seasons to the college student in the final episodes. For Warner, spending 8 years with a single character was a double-edged sword. On one hand, the role of Theo Huxtable brought him fame, steady income, and an Emmy nomination in 1986. On the other, he was keenly aware that without careful planning, he could be boxed in forever as the Huxtable family's eldest son. That's why even during The Cosby Show, Warner explored other opportunities. He directed several episodes, hosted teen-oriented specials, and sought projects outside the sitcom format. When The Cosby Show ended in 1992, Warner didn't choose to rest or bask in the glory. Instead, he immediately began shaping a new image. In 1996, he returned to television with the UPN sitcom Malcolm and Eddie, co-starring with Eddie Griffin. Running for 4 seasons, 1996-2000. The show proved Warner's natural comedic talent and strong on-screen chemistry with his co-star. During this period, he also directed many episodes showing skill in comedic timing and everyday storytelling. But Warner didn't limit himself to comedy. The 2000s marked a shift toward more dramatic roles from the series Jeremiah 2002-2004 and Read Between the Lines 2011 to Major Crimes 2015. Each role was a step away from the shadow of Theo Huxtable, expanding the depth of his acting. Music, his passion since childhood, became a parallel career path. Warner played bass for his band Miles Long, released jazz and spoken word albums, and performed at numerous events. In 2015, he joined Robert Glasper and Lala Hathaway to win the Grammy Award for Best Traditional R&B Performance with Jesus Children. It was proof that he was not only an actor, but also a musician recognized by industry peers. Warner's television career continued to flourish in the 2010s and 2020s. Starting in 2018, he impressed audiences as Dr. A.J. Austin in Fox's medical drama The Resident. This talented, blunt, and sometimes prickly doctor was a far cry from Theo Huxtable, proving that Warner had successfully redefined himself for a new generation of viewers. In addition to acting and music, Warner worked as a producer-director and even launched his own podcast, Not All Hood, in 2024. It became a space for him to share honest, thoughtful perspectives on culture, society, and art. The latest episode, posted on Instagram on July 18, 2025, just 2 days before his death, has now become a memorial wall for fans worldwide. Over more than 40 years in the business, Warner proved he was no former child star, but a multi-talented and enduring artist. He acted in more than 30 films and television series, directed numerous episodes of popular sitcoms, released music albums, won a Grammy, and made his mark in multiple creative fields. Looking back, it's clear that from America's eldest son in 1984, Malcolm-Jamal Warner grew into a well-rounded artist, one who knew how to preserve his integrity, reinvent himself, and always respect his audience. And in the secret archive just opened the old film contracts, behind-the-scenes photos from Malcolm and Eddie, and his 2015 Grammy ticket all vividly portray a career that was both dazzling and full of challenges. The fruits of over 4 decades in the business. When looking into Malcolm-Jamal Warner's secret archive alongside his acting memorabilia, people also found clear evidence of the financial success he had built up after more than 40 years dedicated to the arts. According to multiple estimates in 2025, Warner's net worth was around $6 million, an impressive figure for an actor who began his career as a teenager and maintained it steadily for decades. Most of this wealth came from his earnings in films and television series. At the height of The Cosby Show, Warner's per-episode salary is believed to have increased season by season, especially as the show consistently topped the Nielsen ratings. With a total of 197 episodes aired between 1984 and 1992, this provided a stable income and a foundation for him to invest in personal projects. After The Cosby Show, Warner continued to secure high-value contracts with Malcolm and Eddie Reid, Between the Lines, The Resident, and more. Beyond acting, he also earned royalties when these shows were rebroadcast or distributed through streaming platforms. Music also contributed to his wealth. Albums and performances with his band Miles Long, as well as collaborations with major artists like Robert Glasper and Lala Hathaway, brought in significant revenue. In particular, winning a Grammy Award in 2015 not only boosted his reputation, but also increased the value of his performance contracts. Inside the archive, people discovered yellowed signed contracts, payment statements from studios, and even property ownership certificates. Warner was reportedly the owner of a home in Los Angeles and a small apartment on the East Coast, places where he could retreat to rest or work when needed. Some industry sources also mentioned his investments in independent film production and several community arts projects, reflecting his desire to leave a legacy beyond acting. What stood out was that despite having solid financial means, Warner always lived discreetly, never flaunting his wealth. No fleets of supercars, no lavish mansions splashed across magazines. He chose a modest lifestyle focusing on family and work. That's why when the archive revealed his financial documents and assets, many were struck by Warner's prudence and discipline in money management, something rare for a star who rose to fame in his teens. And then, among those financial papers, people began to uncover another part of the story. One Warner had intentionally kept from the public: a secret wife and child, a deeply private personal life, and the intense pressures of the entertainment industry. When pieced together, these secrets painted a completely different picture of the man behind the public image. The secrets kept hidden inside the newly opened archive, alongside yellowed film contracts, handwritten music notes, and behind-the-scenes photos. There runs a common thread: Malcolm-Jamal Warner spent his life controlling the boundary between the stage and his private world. He showed the world only what was necessary to sustain a career that lasted more than 40 years, keeping the rest, his family, his feelings, even moments of exhaustion under pressure, in a place few were ever allowed to enter. These were not shocking twist secrets, but a set of values he steadfastly upheld, protecting his loved ones, preserving peace, and never letting the spotlight distort real life. At the heart of that silence was a secret marriage. In 2015, through a mutual friend, Warner met a lawyer living in Connecticut. They began as friends without pressure or calculation. Over time, their feelings deepened. In a rare moment on the podcast Hot and Bothered, Warner shared, "I laid it all out, told her everything. Then one day I asked, 'What do you think about getting married?' For him, that moment was the answer to every doubt. This was the right person." Around 2016 or 2017, they quietly tied the knot. No press release, no wedding photos in magazines, not even a single social media post. For Warner, it wasn't a game of hide and seek with the media, but a sacred right to let his family live as ordinary people. In 2017, their only daughter was born. On July 2nd of that year, Warner posted a black and white photo holding his newborn with the caption, "Peaceful time," with family takes on a whole new meaning now. It was one of the rare occasions the public caught a glimpse of his private world, a moment simple, yet profound. From then on, he spoke of his family sparingly. A few casual lines about a weekend at home, a warm dinner, a note about teaching his daughter through presents, but never a name or a face. For someone who had lived under the camera's gaze since age 13, when he landed the role of Theo Huxtable in 1984, this intentional disappearing act was his way of protecting what mattered most. Before marriage, Warner had experienced public romances that were both beautiful and intense enough to leave their mark on his biography. The most famous first love was with Michelle Thomas, his co-star who played Justine Phillips on The Cosby Show. They dated from 1988 into the early 1990s, remaining close friends afterward. When Michelle died of stomach cancer in 1998, Warner was by her side until the very end. Many years later, in 2015, he wrote on Instagram, "If there was ever an angel who walked amongst us mere mortals, this woman was it." These words were not just nostalgia. They reflected his deep respect for past relationships. Then came a 7-year relationship with Karen Melina White, 2000-2007, also a Cosby Show co-star. Marriage rumors were constant, but Karen denied them, describing it as a long, solid relationship without paperwork or fanfare. His final relationship before marrying was with Oscar-winning actress Regina King. They had known each other since the 1980s, but only began dating in 2011. They lived together for a time, becoming one of Hollywood's most admired couples. However, on Valentine's Day, 2013, they suddenly split. Regina later revealed she was completely blindsided, and when Warner sent flowers with the note, "I still love you," she threw them straight into the trash. Warner remained silent, no explanations, no public sparring. That silence, viewed today, seems part of a consistent pattern, ending with respect, never turning old love into tabloid fodder. Alongside love, Warner faced professional pressures few could imagine. He once admitted there was a period when he hated playing Theo, not because of the scripts, but out of fear of being typecast forever. With 197 episodes aired from 1984 to 1992, The Cosby Show had made him America's big brother, but it also cast a shadow too large over his career path. He chose to break free through action, rather than words, directing several Cosby Show episodes starring in the sitcom Malcolm and Eddie 1996-2000, and later taking on dramatic roles in Read Between the Lines' Major Crimes, and especially as Dr. A.J. Austin in The Resident from 2018. Another shock came from outside when the Bill Cosby scandal erupted. The Huxtable family image collapsed in the public eye. Warner was not involved, but as part of that legacy, he was deeply affected. "It's heartbreaking to see something once so pure in people's hearts become tarnished," he said. He didn't loudly explain or defend, instead focusing on work, letting his roles and music speak for him. Music, his lifelong parallel passion, also became an outlet. He played bass, formed the band Miles Long, released albums, and performed widely. In 2015, he, Robert Glasper, and Lala Hathaway won a Grammy for Jesus Children. It was a milestone confirming that he was not just a former child star who could sing, but a true artist recognized by his peers. To endure under pressure, Warner built his own defense system. First, he controlled public information. He gave interviews about his craft and projects, but sidestepped deep questions about family. When compelled to mention his wife and daughter, he used only general terms, like "my wife" and "my daughter," focusing on values rather than details. Second, he regulated his life rhythm during The Resident's production. He often arranged his schedule, so weekends were fully for family, avoiding unnecessary public events. Third, he took ownership of his narrative. In 2024, he launched the podcast Not All Hood, where he spoke on culture, society, and art in his own way, free from the sensational lens of the media. On July 18, 2025, he posted a new podcast episode on Instagram. Just 2 days later, on July 20th, 2025, tragedy struck. Malcolm-Jamal Warner died in a drowning accident at Playa Cocos Beach, Costa Rica, at the age of 54. He had been on vacation with his family. His daughter was rescued in time, but Warner was swept away by a rip current. Death came swiftly, unexpectedly, leaving a deep void in the hearts of his fans. When that curtain of privacy fell for good, the public realized the secrets he kept were not to provoke curiosity, but to protect what mattered most. The right for his family to live in peace. The right for past loves to remain respected. The right for himself to breathe in an industry obsessed with scrutiny. And that is why, when the secret archive was opened, the unseen family photos, the handwritten letters to his wife, the personal reminders reading, "Protect what matters most. Don't let the spotlight blind you," became moments that left everyone still. They were not just artifacts, but proof of how Malcolm-Jamal Warner lived loving deeply, but choosing to live quietly. The fateful moment at Playa Cocos on July 20th, 2025. The news of Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death swept through entertainment newsrooms. But it wasn't just fans who were stunned. All of Hollywood fell silent. According to the official report from Costa Rica's National Police, Warner was vacationing with his wife and daughter in the country's Caribbean region. That morning, the family visited Playa Cocos, a beach both famous for its beauty and notorious for dangerous rip currents. The weather was perfect, clear skies, gentle waves enough to make people assume it was safe. Witnesses recalled that Warner entered the water with his daughter. While they were playing close to shore, both were suddenly pulled out by a strong rip current. Locals and lifeguards responded quickly. His daughter was brought to safety, but Warner was carried farther out. By the time he was found and brought back to shore, his heart had stopped. Medical personnel tried to resuscitate him on the spot and en route to the hospital, but it was too late. The coroner's report confirmed the cause of death as drowning due to asphyxiation, with no signs of injury or anything unusual. A family source said Warner went quickly, without suffering a small comfort amid the overwhelming shock. Despite clear information from Costa Rican authorities, Warner's death left behind lingering questions. Some fans wondered how could he, a former athlete in his youth who kept himself in good shape, fail to escape the current. Others noted that just 2 days earlier, He had been full of energy, even planning the next season of his podcast. Speculation began to spread on social media forums. Some suggested he might have had an undiagnosed health issue that made him lose strength faster in the water. Others latched onto the detail of the secret archive being opened right afterward, spinning elaborate theories that Warner was guarding something too big, and that his death wasn't entirely an accident. His family and close friends firmly rejected all conspiracy theories. His mother, Pamela Warner, issued a brief statement calling the rumors baseless and hurtful, stressing, "My son passed away in an unexpected accident. There is no mystery beyond the grief of those left behind." Still, the combination of three factors: a sudden death, the immediate opening of a secret archive, and a life lived largely in privacy, turned the story of Warner's final hours into something haunting. It wasn't a mystery in the criminal sense, but an emotional one. How could a man so alive preparing for new projects simply vanish in a few short minutes beneath the waves? A private funeral was held in the US a week later, attended only by family and close friends. No media, no photographs. Every tribute spoke of Warner's warmth, devotion to family, and professional perseverance. Hundreds of thousands of messages and memorial posts poured in online, turning his social media page into a wall of memories where fans left their final goodbyes. And then, when it seemed everything had come to a close, details from inside the archive, from handwritten letters and never-before-seen family photos to deeply personal notes, were revealed, sparking a fresh wave of conspiracy theories. That, in turn, led to the next chapter in the story: the theories and rumors surrounding the mystery he left behind. Conspiracy theories surrounding the hidden mysteries. In the days following the news of Malcolm-Jamal Warner's passing, social media and fan forums lit up with speculation. At first, the conversation centered on grief and loss, but within days it veered in another direction, fueled by reports that his secret archive had been opened immediately after the funeral. On YouTube videos, Reddit threads, and pop culture podcasts, people began spinning a wide range of theories. One group believed the archive contained sensitive material about the behind-the-scenes world of The Cosby Show, particularly from the period before and after Bill Cosby's scandal broke. They pointed to Warner's past admission that he felt heartbroken watching the Huxtable family image collapse, and speculated that he might have held stories never made public. Another theory focused on his private life. Because Warner had a secret marriage and never revealed the identity of his wife or child, some imagined the archive contained photographs, letters, or information that could change how the public saw him. A few tabloid-style entertainment outlets even published blurry images or leaked documents allegedly from the archive, but none could be traced to a credible source. More sensational theories suggested Warner had been preparing to release a documentary or memoir exposing the darker side of the entertainment industry, and that his death was too coincidental to ignore. This idea was fueled by the fact that he had launched the podcast Not All Hood in 2024, and had in recent episodes hinted at untold stories he planned to share. However, these theories faced two major roadblocks. First, the Costa Rican coroner's report concluded his death was purely accidental drowning with no evidence of foul play or intoxicants. Second, Warner's family, especially his mother, Pamela Warner, repeatedly denied any speculation, stating firmly that there is no hidden truth about the cause of his death. Investigative journalists also weighed in. Reputable outlets such as People AP News and Variety all confirmed that the archive was simply a collection of personal mementos, family photos, handwritten letters, film contracts, music composition notes, and a few keepsakes from his most famous roles. No explosive documents or mysterious evidence were ever verified. But in an era where rumors travel faster than facts, corrections rarely have the same grip as speculation. For many, especially those who grew up watching The Cosby Show, Warner was more than an actor. He was a piece of their youth. And when someone so deeply woven into the fabric of their memories dies suddenly, it's easy to cling to conspiracy theories as a way of delaying the acceptance of loss. In the end, perhaps the greatest mystery Malcolm-Jamal Warner left behind was not in the archive, nor in any untold story, but in the way he lived discreetly, independently, and always protecting what mattered most to him. He left this world as he had lived in it, quietly, without spectacle, leaving behind an artistic legacy and a set of questions that perhaps never needed answers at all. Malcolm-Jamal Warner may be gone, but what he left behind is more than the role of Theo Huxtable, more than the music or the awards. It's a life message. Love deeply live, kindly, and protect what matters most at all costs. His life, from the dazzling lights to the quiet moments behind them, stands as proof that sometimes the most valuable things aren't what we put on display, but what we choose to keep safe. If you want to keep exploring real-life stories and untold secrets about the stars you love, hit like, share, and subscribe so you won't miss a single video. The next story might just surprise you even more.
All data, analysis, and commentary in this video are presented based on information available at the time of production. The content is subject to change over time and should not be considered a definitive forecast. There is still so much more to explore: stories of resilience, legacy, and truth. Feel free to dive into some of our top recommended videos now appearing on your screen.